Hey everyone, I'm Sharon Scott Wilson. I'm publisher of Resort Trades Media Group, and this is Trades Talk with Sharon Wilson, today in timeshare. And Trades Talk is a brief business-to-business presentation for timeshare, vacation ownership, and resort professionals to help you stay ahead with the trends in the business, as well as to stay in touch with who's doing what in our constantly changing world. So if you're new to this channel, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. But today, we are thrilled to introduce Jim Madrid. Jim is author of a very inspirational book, Meatballs Mindset, an intriguing title. And that takes us on a journey through healing, hope, and the power of perspective, which I am totally enjoying, Jim. So maybe you could just say a little something about, introduce yourself and what all you do.
Well, thank you, Sharon, and thank you for having me on your program. And thank you for all the support all these years in Resort Trades Magazine. I really appreciate that. And I've had the opportunity to write a few articles for you, and hopefully I get to do some more of that for you, and I would enjoy that. Let's see, when it comes to the trades, as we were discussing before we went on air, is that I've been involved with the timeshare resort industry since about late 70s, early 80s with Thousand Trails out of Seattle, Washington, many, many years ago, then on to Trend West Resorts. But what my path has taken me on is early on in my youth, I was, got introduced to some information and education, I should say, in the area of cognitive and positive psychology through a gentleman named Lou Tice, who was my high school coach and teacher. We won't go that far back because that would take way too long. But, what kind of started out as a personal interest in the way of human behavior turned into a professional passion. And so with that, I looked into the world of, psychology. But what it did for me was looking into psychology, and what I kind of figured out that over the last 60 some years, psychology has been about what's wrong with you, right? And then let's diagnose that, and then let's fix you, right? In a very clinical way, which is very good. But I was more interested because for some reason, very serendipitously, I have been exposed to and introduced and met a lot of high performance individuals in my life. And one of the questions I always asked was, what made them, successful? And it really started talking about the goals, the vision, their purpose behind, what they were doing. And so that drove me to find out was, well, a lot of us, and by the way, psychology, there's something wrong with all of us. So we all have issues, Sharon. And so my thing was, how can, these people kind of, get above what they were faced with and, move forward and be successful. And so it kind of looked like that, hey, we could all be doing better, in our life, in our careers, in our finance, our relationships, our health, our community, and so on. And so with that, that's what drove me is saying, how can I help people with their mindset to improve, what they're already doing and what's important to them in their life. So that's what my life's been about.
Was that even prior to developing your stage 4 cancer, which I put the slide up with a few questions for you. So maybe we could just start in about what led you to write Meatballs and Mindset, and how it all came about after you, well, shall we say, do you say survived or conquered?
Surviving.
It's a process.
It still is a process, Sharon. So back in April of 2022, actually before that, I started losing a lot of weight. And one morning I woke up and I coughed up something I shouldn't be coughing up. My wife said, "That's it, we're going to the hospital." I had dropped from about 150 pounds down to about 118, 116 pounds. And we kind of chalked it up to a number of other things. But um, when I got to the hospital and ER, they hit me with a battery of tests. And overnight, the next morning, they came in and told me and my wife that it was stage 4 pancreatic cancer.
Oh,
And after the doctor came in, the nurse came in and she was looking at my chart, Sharon, and she said out loud, "Wow, I've never seen anybody with this much cancer in them."
oh
And
my
I was in the yeah, in the oncology department. Of course, my wife wanted to rip her face off.
Of
So,
course, as probably you did too.
yeah. And so I just looked at my wife and said, "Watch what I do with this." And so the question always becomes, what went through your mind? Well, number one, my father and my uncle have passed away in 2008, 2006 from stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And they both lost their life within 2 to 3 months of being diagnosed. But I thought to myself, number one, first off, I was a little upset. I went through those stages of, denial, anger,
Yeah,
bargaining,
yeah,
depression, and I continued to go through that for about 3 days in the hospital. But to me was, as Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross wrote in her signature book on death and dying, was get to acceptance. You know, what has, happened to me has happened, and that's why I wrote my first book, Get Over It and Get On With It. And, you know, to be able to say, okay, now what I'm going to do with this, okay? And so knowing that they had made many strides in cancer research over the years since my father's passing, and that, I had a choice. And my choice, and I think that's the premise of the book, Meatballs and Mindset, is, recipes for a positive life is we all have choices when we're faced with challenges. And mine was take it as a death sentence or an opportunity to triumph. And, just this morning before you and I got together, I was talking to a gentleman that wants me to meet a friend of his. And his friend, as he put it to me, he goes, "My friend has terminal cancer." I go, "Did the doctor tell him it was terminal?" I mean, there's a mindset, right?
yeah,
There's a
yeah,
mindset. And so
yeah.
uh, the book, going back to the book, was before I got sick, I started to write a book, based on the programs I've created over the years for the 10 Principles of Mentality, which is a workshop, program, and 7 Fundamentals of Mental Toughness for athletes, actually for anybody.
Yeah.
And so people kept asking about mindset, mindset, mindset. So I was going to write a book. It's all about mindset. And I decided that when I got sick, I started journaling. And then, lo and behold, I'm talking about my own mindset in a life-threatening, diagnosis. And so I started to kind of put all that together. And then the funny part is that about 10 months ago, my son and I were at a restaurant, a friend of ours, an Italian restaurant.
Of course.
And of course, so we were sitting there and with the owner, Felipe Fusco, and he said, "Jim, come here. I want to introduce you to one of the patrons." And he took me over to this elderly gentleman, and he said, "Jim, meet Jim." And it was Jim Senegal, the co-founder of Costco. Well, I'm originally from Seattle.
Oh,
Costco's originally from Seattle. And Jim was Costco. My coach and teacher and mentor was Lou Tice, who started his business, the Pacific Institute, back in 1971. And Costco was one of those first clients of Lou. And so we started talking about culture and with Jim, and then we left and we went back to back to our table. My son and Jamie and Phil and I were having a glass of wine, and we start talking about the Italian culture. And that night I got home and woke up about 1:30 in the morning, and bing, the light went on. Said, "I'm putting that Italian culture together with mindset." And then the name really didn't come until I was making some meatballs, and my son Jamie and my son Jeremy were there, and they go, meatballs. You got a meatball mindset. I went, and they're sitting there watching, as I did with my mother in the kitchen, and my grandmother. It's sitting there watching how everything went together and all the ingredients that go into making, the sauce, what they did, how they did it back then. My mother used to make homemade raviolis, and it was a meat and spinach and Parmesan kind of mixture. But the spinach, she put it in a grinder, She didn't put it in a food processor, but she put it in a grinder, and just watching it and asking her why. And it really separated some of the, and there was a reason behind everything. And then the ingredients. And what's funny is I've asked people for recipes, and they go, Italians, they go, you mean you want me to tell you how many teaspoons and how much this and a cup of that? Goes, we don't do that. We don't do that. We just throw stuff in there and go and taste it and go, well, that tastes good. That works, So, and then it came up with it. And again, I woke up at about 5:30 in the morning. One morning I went, I got to make those meatballs. And my wife said, you got to have a mindset for that. I went, there you go. Meatballs and mindset. Recipes for a positive.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Well, and I did want to say that a lot of what you have spoken about in your book has led me to, well, I'm not always good at it yet, but you wake up with gratitude. And with, I'd like to journal too. I haven't done it in years. So I'm going to return to that, and meditation.
Yeah.
But I think it's a very inspiring. I really am enjoying your book, and I haven't finished it yet, but I think it's so packed. I don't want to just write through it. I want to digest it.
Yeah, and good point. Just like a meatball.
Right.
You digest that mindset. I've had right now over 30 reviews on Amazon, all 5-star reviewed on Amazon, and it is so comforting and satisfying to read those reviews, because the message I wanted to send through that book is resonating with people. And yes, waking up with gratitude every morning. I get the whole, what's your why? I get that. But to me, the why is more transactional, where purpose and gratitude is more transitional. And I hopefully that message is getting through, because, people say, did your perspective on life change? I would say yes, but not to the point where it was just this light went on. No, it was more of more intentional. It was more that, here I've been, coaching people and, using my, the education I was taught many, many years ago, and then sharing it with people, over 30 years and 7 continents, 5 countries, close to 1 million people over the years. And, now I had to 10x it for myself. Yeah. And, my faith, it's almost like God saying, all right, Mr. Mindset guy, let's see if you can handle this. And, what's interesting is the methodology that I, the process that I ask athletes, CEOs, people to use in any part of their life, just sat down and had a clear intention about what I wanted to cause, bring about, or make happen in my health. And I think it's surprising for some people. Even the first part of the book, I talk about, I never set a goal to be cancer free. I set a goal to be healthy. Right. And last week I turned 73 years old, and I coach. Well, thank you. I coach high school soccer still, and the boys sang happy birthday when the head coach said, "Do you guys, how old do you think Mr. Madrid is?" And when he told them that I was 73, they went, "No way," and ta-da, but that methodology and everything I teach them, um, it just flat works. And so with that, through the stories in the book and the concepts that I share in the book, is like we face, we have choices to make every day, every day. And well, I think that, my goal was to be healthy. Cancer was in the way. And so, what are the things, that I decided to do in my life and change and improve, not so much change, but improve in my life. Yes, I do look at ingredients when I'm buying stuff at the store. I look at folic acid in, when you buy pasta, or breads or anything like that. That's not good, for me.
Right,
I'm
right.
not saying not for anybody, but,
Yeah, high carbs. I think they've got
right.
a good point about it turning right into sugar.
Right, right. And so, and so when I looked at all that, I'm just a little bit more conscious about that. And, like I said, I'm still going, and my schedule, Sharon. It's insane,
Pretty wild.
leave, yeah. So I leave for Seattle this weekend because my Seattle Seahawks, one of my players that play on the team, is playing the 49ers at this point, right now.
Oh, oh boy,
So
49ers won last night.
yeah, they did, but we beat them the last time at their place. Anyways, so so I'm going up there. Then February I go to New Orleans, and then March is big. My daughter's getting married in Australia, so my wife and I are going over for 2 weeks in Australia. Come home, and then 3 days later, GNX 2026 is in Nashville,
I
big
know.
and better than ever before. We've expanded it, and I'm really looking excited about GNext, March 18th through the 20th, 22nd. And so, all that is, and then, many other trips that are going on. And I enjoy my life. And I really do enjoy sharing, and talking about, the book and what's in the ingredients inside the book. And it's been
Absolutely.
great.
It's very inspirational because I must say, even in regards to my business, Resort Trades, it influenced me to have more outreach of this sort, of personal, human improvement, if you will. So
Mhm.
we are hosting Crystal House advertisements, also Victoria's Voice, which David Siegel
David
started with.
Siegel's daughter. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and also Send Me on Vacation, which sends breast cancer survivors
Yeah.
on vacation. So
Yeah. What Kathy has done with that, Kathy Backus, and I am 100% behind that because, I talked to a lot of people. In fact, this morning in that meeting prior to this, the gentleman ended, "Hey, Jim, I got a really good friend." And that's one that said, "Hey, I've got, he's got terminal cancer. Will you talk to him?" And I said, "Sure." But, and he added, because as somebody that's gone through it, and I said, as I'm going through it, because it's a continuous process,
hmm,
um, it would be, and same with me when I was first diagnosed, to reach out. There was a young lady, a friend of ours, love her, God rest her soul. She was fighting cancer for 2 years prior to that. And she came to me right away. And then there was a young man that he had lymphoma, about a year before, and he was a cancer survivor, and I helped him through his, situation. And this young man came to me, and he was there for me. So it was, yeah, to be able to talk to people, and so, to be able to share that book right now at City of Hope, where I was treated and continue to be treated.
hmm.
They are incredible. They've got the book in their library. And in fact, I'm waiting for another shipment to come in to take up more books to them to put in their books in their gift store. And what they did for me and what they continue to do for me, That's the message I want to be able to. It takes a village. So everything that I did and doing, it does take a village, not just one thing. There is no miracle, one thing that's going to do it, but it does take, a mindset of faith in, if you have a God, faith in your God, faith in your doctors, faith in my family, my wife, my kids, and friends like you guys, and Paul Madamo at GeneX would, I always tell the story that I was diagnosed in April, and about that first week of May, we had GeneX in Canada, and so I said, well, I better call Paul, and told him what was going on. Paul goes, I know you, Madrid. Just book your ticket. We'll see you in September. And sure enough, that's all I needed to hear. And a couple other clients did the same. And they said, Madrid, you're Jim Madrid. Just book your flight.
That's great. That's great. Well, that kind of brings us also to the third point I listed here. The word meatballs feels warm, human, and grounded in connection. And I got a lot out of that too. The connect. I was a big Dr. Oz fan when he had his TV show, and he would often say, particularly as you get older, you need to have those connections to be healthy.
Right. Well, and researchers showed us too, what happened to us during the pandemic. Isolationism is not good for anybody.
Right.
And the other part too is getting out in light, having light, closing
getting
your
out
shades.
in nature. Yeah.
Right. And you need that light that gives you energy and a number of things. And so, with that connection, I look at that and it's, and in fact, we're rolling out a new program, being in the resort industry, I've facilitated our programs to a lot of people in the industry, as you know. Mm-hmm. And they go, okay, well, what's next? Well, I've done a lot of different things, and especially post this medical journey I've been on. So, I talk about my Italian heritage, and as everybody that knows me, that's gone through our curriculum, knows my stories about the Italian culture, right? And so and when they hear that I wrote a book called Meatballs and Mindset, they go, of course you wrote a book about meatballs, But the other thing too is, I know it's, and so the other thing is culture's everything, right? And it drives everything. My old boss used to say, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And I look at that and I think about the Italian culture. When Sunday, afternoons when all the family came together. I mean, in Seattle, I have about 35 first cousins. Okay, so big family. And we get together on Sundays for those big family arguments. I mean, dinner. I mean, so, but the interesting thing, but the interesting thing is that there's that, that philosophy of la dolce vita, the sweet life, right? And even though I'm mad at you, but at the table, I'll still pass you the salt, and maybe I disagree with you politically, religiously, whatever it may be about Auntie Mary, Auntie Gloria, my cousin Denise or whoever, but I'll still pass the sauce to you. You want another meatball? What's the matter? Light? Come on, there's lots of food left over, right? So that cultural workshop, we've just came out with the Italian way, workshop, and we cut it down to like 4 hours, and that kind of workshop that everybody loves Italian,
I know
everybody. And when I begin a workshop, it's interesting where I start off by saying, you're going to have to start thinking differently. And so I have to tell them, Jim Madrid, here's how I think differently. And I go back to the story of my wife and I 32 years ago dating, and I went to pick her up for dinner one night, and she got in the car and she said, where are we going? And I told her the name of the restaurant, and she gave me a weird look.
It wasn't Italian.
Said, yeah, she goes, well, I go, she goes, well, it's Italian. I said, so? And she said,
Oh, it
well,
is
we,
Italian.
yeah. So she goes, well, we had Italian food last night. I said, so? She goes, well, who eats Italian food 2 nights in a row? And I always take up a picture of Italy every night. They eat Italian food, and I could do it every
That's
night
cute.
too.
That's really
So,
cute.
so we think about, Italian, that this past summer of 2025, Italy was the most visited, destination in the world. And
Yeah.
everybody I talked to that went to Italy, they said it was so crowded. So everybody loves Italian, right?
Yes.
So we go, so what if we
Italia
could
mi
bring,
piace.
yeah, see. And so why wouldn't you want to have a culture that is like that? And so that's why we came up with the Italian way. And if you could build that culture like that, then what I call in sports, that's a championship culture. And you
But
become a culture champion.
as readers move through Meatballs and Mindset, what do you want them to feel? I know what I felt, but
Mhm.
uh,
But I'm getting those responses like that too, Sharon. Where I've got a young lady, she is 18 years old, and she wouldn't mind me sharing this with you. In fact, she gave me a call last night. She is an Olympian. She is a skateboarder. She was in the last summer or 2 summers ago, the Olympics, and she's on her way to be in the Olympics in 2028 here in Los Angeles.
oh,
And and she's gone through a bit. When I first met her in 2017, her mother and sister were living in a car in
oh,
San Clemente,
oh,
and you know, she's now really keeping the family alive with her sponsorships. She's doing fabulous, and the whole change has been again the transition from where she is. And she said, Jim, the book has absolutely helped me in making decisions and making the right choices. And so, going through that, and that whole experience is again, we all face challenges, life's everyday challenges,
right,
whether it be in sports or get a flat tire, get a ticket, whatever it is, it's all about the choice. And you could either say, I'm done, or watch what I do with this. And
right.
that's what I
I
hope
love that.
people get out of that. Yeah.
I love that. Often, as I, shall we say, mature or become of a certain age, I wake
Right.
up a little, sometimes with a little fearfulness or concern that, is everything going, is my health going to, remain reliable and that kind of stuff. But your
Mhm.
book said, no, wake up with gratitude for what you've got and where you are. And uh, so it's really helped me a lot. And
Yeah.
I think
And,
I'm
and,
answering your last question, which was if we're going through a difficult season, how does it change the way we see tomorrow? And I think
well,
through,
yeah. And I was with El Cid Resorts in September getting ready to do, we did a 2-day workshop, and we were in Playa, and we had their resort there. We had all their salespeople there, sales and marketing, and they online was their Mazatlan group also. So it's a total of
oh,
about 300 people.
oh,
Now,
was
Oliver,
Curtis Knight still there?
no, he retired. He's one of my best friends, though.
Oh,
He's
I
just
miss
great.
him in that
Yeah,
case.
Oliver is the manager there, and they called me about a month ago to say they're having um, the best season ever. They are toppling their budgets and so on,
Oh,
and they wanted to thank me, and I said, no, 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 don't thank me. And I tell this to people at the end of a workshop, don't thank me, thank them for bringing this kind of education in, not me, the education. all I can do is I can't motivate anybody, but I can give you the education that was given to me years ago and introduced to me that I can motivate myself. And if we can bring that to the but it takes that but it's the culture in which Curtis kind of created there, and Carlos the owner that they've created there. Well, then that there drives people that want to do good. And so, and you think about the Italian way. You come into my house, trust me, I'm going to do everything for you you walk out of here and go, wow, what was that? And and finally my wife has got, after 30 some years now being married, she's finally figured out, oh, that's what we do. That's why he does what he does. No, but 3 years ago, we had my 70th birthday party. We had over 100 people here at the house.
Wow.
And what was gratifying to me was to hear, it was basically an open house kind of thing all day long. And what was gratifying to me was to hear the responses afterwards of people saying that was the most positive energy, the most positive place, that you just felt that energy. And so, that's what, hopefully people get that out of the book too, because when I got home, let me go back to when we decided, that day when I was diagnosed, and to call my kids. I have 5 children, 4 boys and a daughter, and they're all grown. And when we called the boys and called the family up, my daughter, when she heard the news, she cried out, "Oh no." And we can hear the boys sniveling. And my wife said immediately, and that's in the book too, I think I put it in there, that today's about crying. Tomorrow we go to work to support your father to beat this thing. And then she ended the conversation with, all this is going to do is give us stronger legs for bigger strides. And if people could just take that message, because when I got home, Darcy had on the doors signs that said positive talk only beyond this door. So if you're coming into our house, even the Amazon driver took a picture of it. He goes, I'm doing this at my house.
Yeah.
But when you came into the house, my daughter, she was into crystals. I'm into it now. The energy, when you look into that.
I have to look into that.
Yeah. And I mean, look, she brought me this. This is in my office, a big old crystal, that's in my office. And, and then my son, the different vibration tones that would go through. So, yeah, we created that, it's almost like Disneyland. Disneyland, what they try and do is keep you from seeing when you're inside Disneyland, you don't see anything other than the happiest place on earth.
The world that,
right.
They create.
Right. And today, what we're going through in the world today, I create the happiest place on earth in the 5 inches between my ears.
That's very smart. Because we tragically listen to a lot of news, and you don't see news unless it's bad. They
Well, think about it. The news is 30 minutes long. Well, take out all the commercials, but say 30 minutes long. And they give you nothing but bad news for 28 minutes and end it with a positive little story. It's like, what?
Right. Occasionally, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Occasionally. Right.
Right.
But, Jim, that's my thing. If people can take a look at and create that positive energy, there's it's not just any hokey pokey stuff. There's science behind it all now, Sharon. We can back it all up with evidence-based science.
Absolutely. And you know what? A thought occurred to me earlier when I was preparing this session is that maybe we could make this sort of a regular deal every month or so. Have you share with our audience? I'd love that. And I'm going to take a transcript of this and put it in the magazine. But I so appreciate you taking the time to share. And thank you for sending the book too.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Well, I guess our time's kind of winding up, but I don't know if you wanted to provide a phone number or anything in case someone who hears this wants to get in touch with you, or do you prefer?
Well, the best way is to email me at jim@jimmadrid.com. But if they want to find out more about the book, they can go to meatballsandmindset.com, meatballsandmindset.com. They can go there, or jimmadrid.com. Happy to help. And one of the things that I'm very passionate about, and that is, if you do have somebody that's going through a difficult situation, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to. And by the way, I don't tell people what to do. They hear my story and they go, "What did you do?" And I spent about 2 hours in my last checkup with my doctor. They had a couple other doctors in there asking me the questions, and the questions they asked me was, what was my mindset? And it was 2 hour session. And at the end of it, they said, without surgery, without chemotherapy, and what you've, stage 4 pancreatic cancer, then non-small cell lung cancer in 18 months is a less than 1% survivorship.
Jeez.
So if I could share that, if it works for me, my next book is Mindset for Dummies. If Jim Madrid can beat cancer, you can find your damn car keys. So, but yeah, more than happy to help people. So Jim Madrid, jim@jimmadrid.com, 2 M's in the middle, and happy to help.
Well, thank you so much. And again, you are welcome back at any time, and we'll definitely follow up with you and get you scheduled again. So
sounds good to me. I'm in, Sharon.
Oh.
Anything for you. You've done such a great job in resort trades. It's so needed. And I think it's great that you're an independent, which I look at. You're not associated with any association, but you're an independent. And I think you're probably the only one that's doing that. So God bless you and keep it up, Sharon.
Well, thank you. I hope to. And you too. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Sharon.
All right. Take care now.